Hello everybody, this is Dr.G.P. Sudhakar, Professor of Management from Hyderabad, India. Right, so as part of this brief video, we are going to learn about what are the resources. See, resources play a major role in an organizational functioning basically. In an organizational functioning, day in and day out, organizations require several resources, right? So as part of this specific video, we are going to discuss about what is the definition of resources, what are different types of resources being used by business organizations, and what are the characteristics of each one of these resources. For example, characteristics of raw material, characteristics of human resources, characteristics of machinery, and what are the characteristics of money. Also, we will be discussing as part of this specific video, right? So, to start with, what is the definition of resources? Basically, resources are the inputs needed by an organization in order to develop products or services. See, resources are the inputs required by the organization in order to develop products or services, right? So basically, in an organizational day-to-day functioning, organizations require these resources, right? So resources are of several types. What are those different types of resources? Basically, first one is raw material. Second one is human resources or the people. And third one is machinery or tools. And fourth resource an organization requires is an important resource is the money or the financial resources. So like this, there are four different types of resources being required needed by a business organization in order to develop product or service, right? So let's move on and discuss what are the characteristics of each one of these resources. See, basically each resource exhibits certain characteristic, right? So what are those specific characteristics specific to raw material, characteristics specific to human resources, characteristics specific to machinery, and characteristics specific to money. Also we will be discussing as part of this specific video, right? So to start with, what are the characteristics of raw material? Basically, raw materials undergo certain process and they will be converted into a finished good or service. Raw materials undergo certain process and they will be converted into finished good or service, right? Raw material are supplied by a vendor, right? The cost price of the raw material affects the finished good or product price. Cost price of the raw material affects the finished good or product price. Similarly, the quality of raw material is very much important in order to develop a quality product and deliver a quality product to the customer, right? Quality of the raw material is very much important, right? So different organizations take different industries require different raw material. For example, take construction industry, it requires cement, sand, bricks, these kind of iron, steel, this kind of raw material is required by construction industry. For example, take software industry, what kind of raw material it requires? First, its raw material is the human resources, people. Next one is machinery, hardware, software, tools, right? So like this software industry requires different raw material. Take automobile industry, what are the different raw material for automobile industry? Automobile components we discussed right in the other video, like tires, batteries, different components, tools, spare parts. These are the raw material for an automobile industry, so like this different industries make use of different resources in developing product or services, right? So let's move on and learn about what are the characteristics of human resources being used by organizations. Human resources are the important resource for any organization. See, basically human resources, they work in line with an organizational objective. They convert the raw material using machinery into a finished good or product. Human resources convert raw material using machinery into a finished good or product, right? See, basically, because they are working for the organization, human resources expect wages and salaries. Another thing is human resources, another expectation is they expect learning from the project or the organization where they are working. They expect the learning. Human resources expect learning. Right. Similarly, human resources are to be provided with needed training, development. They undergo development process in the organization. They undergo induction, orientation, and development in the organization. So these are all the different characteristics of human resources. Human resources, their skills, competencies, they carry certain demographic variables, experience level, they carry age level, they carry. They will be at different levels in the organization. Their skill set varies. Human resources skill set varies. Human resources experience levels will vary. They will be with different cultural backgrounds. Diversity will be there in the human resources, particularly in multinational organizations. Right. So these are all the characteristics of human resources. These are all the characteristics of human resources. All the human resources will be working toward the product development or the services delivery in the organization. Right. So, and also human resources play a major role in getting the product quality. Human resources play a major role in getting the product quality. That is very much important. Unless human resources play major role, you can't deliver a good quality product. Good quality product. In addition to the automation and machinery, human resources involvement is also very much required in achieving the quality or operational efficiency or excellence. Operational excellence. So these are all the different characteristics of human resources. Right. Now let's move on and learn about what are the characteristics of machinery. What are the characteristics of machinery? See, machinery and tools are the third resource required by the organization. Machinery and tools. See, basically, an organization as a manufacturing plant, for example, they are starting a manufacturing plant. They have to procure the machinery and tools. These machinery are to be procured, configured, and installed in the plant. Installed in the plant if it is a manufacturing organization. Right? They have to undergo different configurations, installation process in the organization. Right? Sometimes some machinery, they require technology transfer. Technology transfer. Sometimes some machinery requires technology transfer from the foreign partners. Sometimes you have to import machinery and tools. You have to import machinery and tools. Sometimes they experience scarcity in the market. Scarcity in the market, they may be sometimes rarely available. That is the reason you have to keep a buffer of components and tools required for your production, in the manufacturing plant, so that there won't be production loss in the manufacturing plant. You have to keep certain buffer of components, spare parts and all in your organization. Right? You may have to import the raw materials, machinery sometimes. You have to provide training for the human resources on the machinery. You have to provide training for the human who is working on the machines. They have to be trained with the foreign partners if it is imported technology. It is imported technology. Machinery helps in achieving productivity, increasing productivity, particularly not only achieving productivity, it is increasing productivity. Machinery helps in increasing productivity levels in the organization. Machinery are useful to get accurate results, repeatable, good quality results. Same thing we can repeat using machinery with the same quality. That is the advantage with the automation and machinery. Right? Reliability will be there in the output. Accuracy will be there in the output. Precision will be there in the output if you use machinery particularly. These are all the different characteristics of machinery. These are all the different characteristics of machinery. At the same time, when you are using machinery, safety and security procedures are to be followed. That is also one more characteristic of machinery, particularly in the manufacturing industry where production is involved. You have to ensure the safety measures in the workplace. These are all the characteristics of machinery. Right. Now let's move on and learn about what are the characteristics of money. Characteristics of money. See, money is the important resource for any organization. Right. See, there is no unlimited project in the world, right? So every project has got limited budget. Limited budget. Right. So money, basically, what are the characteristics of money? Money is provided by the banks or financial institutions. by the banks or financial institutions, or sometimes from the profit of the company itself, money is used for the investment purpose, right? So money basically takes three different forms. First, it is in the form of revenues to the organization. Second, in the form of expenses or cost for the organization. And third, in the form of investments. In the form of investments, three different forms it will take money. First one is in the form of revenue, it comes to the organization. Next one is it is the expenses which will go out of the organization. And third one is the investment. Right. So like this, money takes three different forms. Money is being provided by the banks and financial institutions. Right. And also one more characteristics of money is the revenues keep changing. It depends on the external environment, currency fluctuation rate, different sales growth. Is market is doing good or not? Different factors affect the money levels in the organization. Right. Money expenses can be different types. It can be direct expense, indirect expense, or costs can be different types: variable cost, fixed cost. Different forms money will be there in the organization, right? And also people expect return on investment. Whatever money they are investing, they expect the return on investment. Return on investment, money is to be paid to the employees and also to the vendors. Similarly, money is to be spent on production expenses, operating expenses, and manufacturing expenses. Right. So like this, money takes different characteristics. Right. Similarly, money has to go to the shareholders also in the form of dividends. In the form of dividends. So whoever are the stakeholders to the organization, they have to be whoever are the beneficiaries. They have to be identified and dispersed. Right. It's like this. Money takes different forms in an organization. So like this. So that so far, what is the, for example, what are the examples? For example, Patanjali Dantkanti. There is one of the product, right? It requires raw material from the herbs and plants of the forests. That is one of the resources for this specific product. Similarly, Coca-Cola, for example, it requires water as one of the resource, right? Coca-Cola or Pepsi requires water as one of the resource. Like this, different product development requires different resources by the organizations. So far, what is it we discussed in this specific video? We have started with what is the definition of resources. Next, we have seen what are the different types of resources. We learned that raw material, similarly human resources, machinery and tools, and money are important resources used by any organization in order to develop product or service. And we have also learned what are the different characteristics of these resources, such as raw material, human resources, machinery, and money. Also we have seen what are the characteristics, right? Thank you everybody.